This is the Dove Lady, and I'm talking to you again about something I'm going to put in what I call my sacred circle, which is an area of land in my backyard where I've got a beginning of something I'm going to create. And this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be the vector equilibrium, only it's going to be big enough that I can walk inside of it. And it's going to look similar to what this little model of it that I have made shows. And I wanted to say something about the vector equilibrium. I wanted to read it because it's said more fluently than I can talk about it. And so I'm going to just read this to you about the vector equilibrium and explain why this sacred geometry, which this is so very important, and how it represents God. So bear with me. People like me to read things, so I'm going to read you this website here. As has been stated throughout this website, the vector equilibrium is the most primary geometric energy array in the cosmos. According to Bucky Fuller, the VE, which that stands for vector equilibrium, so I'm going to say that because that's a mouthful to say it any other way. According to Bucky Fuller, the VE is more appropriately referred to as a system than as a structure, due to it having square faces that are inherently unstable and therefore non-structural. Given its primary role in the vector-based forms of the cosmos, though, we include it in this section. The vector equilibrium, as its name describes, is the only geometric form wherein all of the vectors are of equal length and angular relationship, 60 degrees angles throughout. This includes both from its center point out to the circumferential vertices and the edges vectors connecting all of these vertices, having the same form as a cubahedron. It was Buckminster Fuller who discovered the significance of the full vector symmetry in 1917 and called it the vector equilibrium in 1940. With all vectors being exactly the same length and angular relationship, from an energetic perspective, the VE represents the ultimate and perfect condition wherein the movement of energy comes to a state of absolute equilibrium, and therefore absolute stillness and nothingness. As Fuller states, because of this, it is the zero phase from which all other forms emerge, as well as dynamic energy events, as will be described below, in Fuller's own words. The most fundamental aspect of the vector equilibrium is that being a geometry of absolute equilibrium, wherein all fluctuation and therefore differential ceases. It is conceptually the geometry of what we call the 0 point or unified field, also called the vacuum of space. In order for anything to become manifest in the universe, both physical energy and metaphysically consciousness, it requires a fluctuation in the unified field, the result of which fluctuation and differential manifest as the quantum and space-time fields that are observable and measurable. Prior to this fluctuation, though, the united field exists as pure potential, and according to contemporary theory in physics, it contains an infinite amount of energy. And in cosmometry, as well as spiritual philosophies, an infinite creative potential of consciousness. Being a geometry of equal vectors and equal 60-degree angles, it is possible to extend this equilibrium array infinitely outward from the center point of the VE, producing what is called the isotropic vector matrix. Isotropic means all the same. Vector means line of energy. and matrix means a pattern of lines of energy. It is this full isotropic vector matrix that can be seen as the infinitely present at all scales in perfect equilibrium geometry of the 0-point unified field. Every point in this matrix is a potential center point of a vector equilibrium, around which a condition of dynamic fluctuation may arise to manifest. And as has been stated and is seen in this image, the VE geometry is inherent in this matrix. Okay. In fact, the VE itself can be seen to consist of a symmetrical array of 8 tetrahedrons, with their bases representing the triangular faces of the VE and all pointing toward the VE center. I'm not going to read any more, but this is the isotropic vector matrix, and that's something that I have made out of Q-tips and wire, and I've demonstrated this in some of my playing around with sacred geometry. And so I have this sacred circle in my backyard, and today I thought I'm going to go to the Goodwill store, and while I was there I found some things I'm going to use. And let me show you my model. Bend down a bit here. In my backyard, I'm going to build this. And what it is, it's a form that holds in its center the vector equilibrium. Because this is a God spot, and I want a spot in my backyard that represents the vacuum shape that we think of as around God and the energy movement. And I'm in the process of getting this started. And I just wanted to talk about that just a little bit so people will become aware of how very important the vector equilibrium as a sacred geometry kind of thing is. It also is very artistic. To me, I see the artistic part of wanting something this beautiful. So, I went to the rummage sale today. Well, not a rummage sale, Goodwill. I had $10 in my pocket. And I wanted to get something to rest my foot in and treat it for a condition I have on my toenail. So that's what I basically went there to get, one of those foot baths. But I wound up just getting this one little tub because that's all I really needed. I didn't need that big thing. And I found some glass things. I'm always after glass things. And the best place to go buy anything made of glass is to thrift stores. I found this beautiful thing. I'm beginning to fall in love with transparency, and glass is certainly transparent. And when I finish building my vector equilibrium in the backyard, I will have these squares that I can decorate with. And while I was at the thrift store, I found all this huge, listen to them, it's a huge bag of little round things all shaped like this. And I thought, oh, well, I'm always going to thrift stores and finding things that I feel like I'm supposed to find, because I'm going to put a series of these up on one of these squares, and it will make the light shine in such a way that I will be able to photograph some of the orbs I love to take pictures of out in my sacred space, and then the light will shine through this area that has these in it onto the interior of my vector equilibrium that I will have built in my backyard. So I was really happy because I wanted to get something, but you never know what you're going to run across when you go to the thrift store, that you can use it for another purpose than what it was designed for. And I got this little thing because it has a lot of little round marble-like things built into the structure of it. 59 cents, that's all it was. And then, when I went to pay for it, I had spent $8, but I had $10. And I thought, wow, I have $2 left. I can get a chocolate milkshake, which I didn't need, not at all. But the chocolate milkshake cost more than $2. I said, okay, that's out. And I didn't need that anyway. So I'm going to go back into the thrift store and spend my last $2. And so I did, and I found this. I'll show it to you. This had my name written all over it. It's a candle holder. It says peace. That's what I'm all about. And it has other words on it. And I thought, I was supposed to find this. There's the dove right there. You can see it. I'll focus up on it. There's a dove in there. Peace on earth, God's gift. Shalom, mystical, inspiration, Holy Spirit. And I'm sort of new age, and I know, oh, this is not too religious, because they would never put the word mystical on there. Mystical is kind of you don't talk that way in certain fundamentalist circles. Also on this side it says, light the way, inner light, enlightenment, guidance, meditation. On this side it says serenity, silence, trust, refuge, self-discovery. Oh, that's an important one. And gentleness. And on this side it said illumination, let your light shine, light of peace, inner flame, and reflection. And I thought, you know, this is me. This piece of candle holder here, this has got my name all over it. It was just screaming for me to buy it. And guess what? It cost just $2, and that's what I had in my pocket. So I said, okay, I'm taking that home. Even though my room has so many things everywhere in it, but I will find a place for this one too, and maybe put a new candle in it, because this is a beautiful piece of art here, the making of this. I could probably even feel the energy of the person who said, these are the words I want to put into this. Because when we have words around us that are powerful words, they speak volumes to us. Just one word can speak a volume of words to us when we know what it means. And it's really good to keep our mind on beautiful thoughts. It keeps us away from the more fearful thoughts and negative thinking, which doesn't empower us at all. And I have a lot of friends that I have here on YouTube, and I thought you just might like to see some of my ideas of what I want to do and what I found at the thrift store today. While I was there, I was also thinking, you know, people get all this stuff and then they don't want it, and it winds up in a thrift store. And that is because ordinary people, we think, if I buy this, that'll make me happy. And then after a while, it ceases to make us quite as happy, and we want to get rid of it. And there's another thing looming that is, oh, if I have that, I'll be happy. But you know what will make us happy is when we feel like we're living a purposeful life, and that we don't let our possessions possess us, and that we see the finer things of life, and we don't dwell too much on the negative, except to bring light to the dark places in our world. And we don't engage in hate. We think thoughts of peace. And I was just watching, I will share this with you too today. I was watching Obama's speech that he gave when he went to Israel. And when he went there as a peacemaker. And he talked to all of these university students and other important people who were gathered together, and they gave him some kind of honor that was an honor bestowed on very few people. But they loved him. And he was talking to an audience of mostly Israel people, Israelis. And you know, there's so much unrest over there between, I'm getting tired of holding this one, set it down. There's so much unrest between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And he said something about how he had met with a group of Palestinian youths and how he was impressed with them like he would be had he been talking to his own children. They were beautiful people who only wanted a chance to grow up and have a chance at having a good life. And he said to the audience of mostly Israeli people that if they had met these young people too, they would probably feel the very same way, that they wanted for these young people the very best that life has to give them. And I thought, what a wonderful way to appeal to them, the people of Israel, to have compassion and love for the young people of the Palestinian nation. And at the same time that he was getting that award, on Fox News, and I hate to be negative on you here, but Fox News reports things that make Obama look really bad. They were saying, Obama's over there and he's causing there to be unrest because he doesn't really represent Israel and Israel's right to be a nation. But Fox News never says anything good about the Palestinians. And they saw it as a bad thing, that he was over there talking the way he was talking. And I thought, how could they not see? He's wanting to bring together two peoples that have had war for centuries now. And that was not the perspective that they had on it. It was like, we're all for Israel, but we care not at all for the Palestinian state. And teaching perhaps them to tolerate and love one another. And that really is what has made the United States great. We're losing a little bit of it now, but it's the fact that so many people from so many places on the earth have come together in the United States and learned to share and harmonize with one another, even though we have different beliefs and different liking of foods. And they've shared some of their foods, and boy, I really love it that I can go to a Chinese restaurant or a Thai restaurant or a Japanese restaurant. All kinds of sharing can go on between people who believe different and look different. But we don't have to see it as something that divides. Differences should be tolerated, because if we were living in a world where there weren't differences, it would be very boring. If everybody was the same, it wouldn't be a fun place to live. And that's just all I wanted to talk about. That I'm not an Obama hater, because I realize that people who hate him so much have such an intense hatred that it's disempowering to them, and now they're saying rather foolish and ignorant things, and they're trying to destroy peace. And they don't even want people to talk about peace. They don't even want our president to go where he can get two groups of people together and talk peaceful with them. They think that is disruptive. So I'm just wondering where they're coming from, because I see that as wonderful. And it needs to happen not only just between nations, but with people in their families that have been divided because they have different points of view. So this is what I have to say today, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, even though it was just a little about what I bought at the thrift store. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now. Bye-bye.